You know what's funny, Zach? The other night I was sitting in my room, lights off, phone face down, and I suddenly thought, wow, I've never felt this alone even when I was actually alone before. And it scared me a bit. Not in a dramatic way, but in that quiet, heavy way where your chest feels tight and your thoughts start running wild.
Yeah, that kind of loneliness hits different. It's not loud. It doesn't scream at you. It just sits there, like an uninvited guest who refuses to leave. And the worst part is, people think loneliness only happens when you have no one around, but that's not true at all. You can be surrounded by people and still feel completely invisible.
Exactly. And I think that's where people get confused. They mix up loneliness with being alone. Being alone is just a fact, a situation. But loneliness, that's emotional. It's that feeling of being disconnected, like you're out of sync with the world, even with yourself sometimes.
Right. Psychologically speaking, there's actually a big difference between loneliness and solitude. Loneliness feels like rejection, like you've been left out of the party of life. Solitude, on the other hand, can feel like freedom. It's when you choose to be with yourself, not because you have no option, but because you want to.
I love that distinction because for the longest time, I thought being alone automatically meant something was wrong with me. Like, if I were more interesting, more attractive, more successful, I wouldn't be this lonely. That mindset is brutal. It turns loneliness into a personal failure.
Yeah, that inner voice can be ruthless. It goes straight for the jugular. But here's the thing. Loneliness isn't a system error. It's not proof that you're broken. It's more like a warning light on your dashboard. It's your mind and heart saying, hey, something needs attention here.
That's such a healthier way to look at it. Instead of fighting loneliness or judging it, we can actually listen to it, ask it questions. Like, what are you trying to tell me? Maybe it's telling us we've been ignoring ourselves or chasing validation from the wrong places.
Or maybe we've been running on autopilot for too long. Waking up, working, scrolling, sleeping, repeat. No real check-in with ourselves. Loneliness shows up when we stop pretending everything's fine. It forces us to slow down, even when we don't want to.
And that's uncomfortable. People hate discomfort. We'll do anything to avoid sitting with our feelings. We binge watch shows, scroll endlessly, jump from one relationship to another just to drown out that silence. But silence isn't the enemy. Sometimes it's the teacher.
Exactly. Solitude, when embraced, becomes a classroom. You start noticing things you've been avoiding, your real interest, your values, the stuff that actually matters to you, not what looks good on social media or what makes other people approve of you.
I remember a time when I was constantly surrounded by friends, always out, always busy. From the outside, it looked like I had a full, exciting life. But deep down, I felt empty. I didn't even know what I liked anymore because I was too busy fitting into everyone else's expectations.
That's such a common experience. We mistake noise for a connection. Just because you're talking all the time doesn't mean you're being heard. Just because you're with people doesn't mean you're emotionally connected. Loneliness can exist in the middle of chaos.
And when that loneliness shows up, we tend to beat ourselves up. We tell ourselves stories like, I'm alone because I'm not good enough, or everyone else has it figured out except me. Those stories feel real, but they're not facts. They're just interpretations.
Totally. That's where self-compassion comes in. Feeling lonely doesn't mean you're weak. It means you're human. Every single person on this planet, no matter how confident or successful they look, has felt lonely at some point. It's part of the human experience.
I wish someone had told me that earlier. It would have saved me a lot of shame. Because shame makes loneliness worse. When you think you're the only one feeling this way, you isolate yourself even more. It's like digging your own emotional hole.
And acceptance is what stops the digging. Accepting loneliness doesn't mean giving up or resigning yourself to it forever. It just means you stop fighting reality. You say, okay, I feel lonely right now. That's where I am. No judgment, no drama.
Once you stop judging yourself, something shifts. The loneliness doesn't disappear overnight, but it softens. It becomes less threatening. You start realizing you can actually sit with yourself without falling apart.
And that's when reconnection with yourself begins. You start asking deeper questions, like, What do I enjoy when no one's watching? What makes me feel alive? What values do I want to live by, even if no one applauds?
For me, that reconnection came through small things. Long walks with no music, writing random thoughts in a notebook, drinking coffee slowly instead of rushing. At first, it felt awkward, almost boring, but over time, it felt grounding.
Those moments sound simple, but they're powerful. They rebuild your relationship with yourself. When you know yourself better, you stop desperately chasing connection just to fill a void. You start choosing connection from a place of wholeness.
And that changes everything. Because instead of asking, who can save me from being lonely, you start asking, who can I genuinely connect with? It's a subtle shift, but it makes relationships healthier and more authentic.
Yeah, loneliness as a teacher teaches boundaries too. It shows you which connections were draining, which ones were superficial, and which ones were real. Sometimes loneliness appears after we lose something, but sometimes it appears to make room for something better.
That's such a hopeful thought. Loneliness isn't a dead end, it's a transition, a pause, a chance to recalibrate. It's uncomfortable, yes, but it's also meaningful.
And once you truly understand that, loneliness stops being something you run away from. It becomes something you walk through, slowly, with curiosity instead of fear.
I think that's the biggest takeaway here. Loneliness doesn't mean your life is empty. It might just mean it's ready for a deeper kind of fullness, one that starts from within.
Well said. And from that place of understanding and acceptance, real change becomes possible. Not forced, not rushed, just honest. So once you've made peace with loneliness, once you stop seeing it as this scary monster hiding under your bed, the next question kind of naturally pops up, right? Like, okay, now what? Because understanding is great, but at some point, you want movement. You want to feel connected again, even in small ways.
Totally. And I think this is where a lot of people get overwhelmed. They think reconnecting means suddenly having a big social circle, deep conversations every night, or finding their people overnight. That pressure alone can push you right back into isolation.
Yeah, that all or nothing mindset is a trap. Reconnection doesn't start with big dramatic gestures. It starts with tiny steps, what psychologists call micro connections. Small, low-stakes interactions that gently remind your nervous system, hey, I'm safe around people.
I love that idea. Micro connections sound doable, like smiling at the barista, saying, "Hey, how's your day going?" to the security guard, or even just making eye contact and nodding at someone on the elevator instead of staring at your phone like it owes you money.
Exactly. And the funny thing is, these tiny moments actually rewire your brain. They reduce social anxiety and slowly rebuild confidence. You're not trying to make friends, you're just being human. No pressure, no expectations.
I remember when I was deep in my lonely phase, even saying thank you out loud felt like a big deal. But once I started doing those small interactions, I noticed my mood lifting a little. Not dramatically, but enough to feel like I wasn't completely cut off from the world.
That's how it works. Progress isn't loud, it whispers. And once those micro connections feel more natural, the next step is putting yourself in environments where connection can happen organically, without forcing it.
You mean communities based on shared interests, right?
Exactly. Instead of thinking, I need more friends, it's healthier to think, I want to do things I enjoy with other people. That shift changes everything. Running clubs, book clubs, language exchanges, volunteering, art classes, places where you don't have to perform socially.
Because the activity itself becomes the bridge. You're not sitting there thinking, do they like me? You're focused on the run, the book, the task. Connection happens on the side, almost accidentally.
Right, and that's the best kind. Low pressure, no masks. You show up as you are. Even silence feels okay because you're doing something together. That shared experience builds trust faster than awkward small talk ever could.
I remember when I was deep in my lonely phase, I joined a weekend volunteer group once, and I barely talked the first few times. But no one cared. We were all busy doing the work. Over time, conversations just happened. No forcing, no chasing.
That's a perfect example. Loneliness fades when you stop chasing people and start sharing space. And speaking of chasing, can we talk about social media for a second?
Oh boy, the elephant in the room.
Social media can be a double-edged sword. It promises connection, but often delivers comparison. You scroll through highlight reels, seeing everyone traveling, laughing, living their best life, while you're in pajamas questioning your existence at 2 a.m.
And suddenly your loneliness feels 10 times worse, not because your life is bad, but because it doesn't look as shiny. That's what I call virtual loneliness. You're surrounded by people online, but feel even more disconnected inside.
Exactly. That's why taking a step back from social media can be a game changer. Not quitting forever, but setting boundaries. Less scrolling, more living. Less consuming, more experiencing.
When I reduced my screen time, I didn't magically become happier, but I felt calmer. My mind had more space, and in that space, I started noticing real life again. The sounds, the people, even my own thoughts.
That awareness is powerful. It brings us back to gratitude and kindness, two underrated tools for breaking loneliness. When you help someone else, even in small ways, you shift your focus outward. You stop spiraling in your own head.
Yeah, kindness creates instant connection. Holding the door, giving a genuine compliment, checking in on someone. It reminds you that you matter and that you can make a difference, even on a bad day.
And gratitude grounds you. When you actively notice what's already there, your health, a warm meal, a quiet moment, you stop defining your life by what's missing. Loneliness thrives on lack. Gratitude balances that out.
I started a simple habit of naming 3 things I was grateful for every night. Some days it was deep stuff. Other days it was just good coffee or a funny meme. But it trained my mind to look for light, even on heavy days.
That's a realistic practice. No toxic positivity, just gentle awareness. And over time, these small habits stack up. Micro connections, shared activities, less comparison, more kindness, they slowly pull you out of isolation.
What I love about this approach is that it doesn't rush the process. It respects the pace of healing. You're not forcing yourself to be social. You're just opening doors and seeing what feels right.
Exactly. Reconnection isn't about becoming someone else. It's about becoming more yourself and letting others meet you there. Some connections will stick, some won't, and that's okay.
And even if loneliness comes back, and it probably will at times, you're not back at square one. You know how to sit with it. You know how to listen to it. And you know how to take steps forward again.
That's the real growth. Loneliness stops controlling you. It becomes just another emotion, not your identity. You move through it instead of being stuck in it.
So if you're listening to this and feeling alone right now, just know you're not behind. You're not broken. You're in a season of learning how to connect more deeply, starting with yourself.
And you don't have to change everything at once. Start small. Smile. Show up. Be curious. Trust that connection grows the same way plants do, slowly, quietly, and with patience.
Loneliness isn't the end of your story. Sometimes it's just the chapter where you learn how to come home to yourself, and eventually to others too.
And honestly, that kind of connection is worth the wait.